and it was supposed to total 4,440.
That was the original estimate.
The original amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, and as you said, they have 18 months to come back with, under state statute.
Correct.
to
But
provide.
Tierra Right-of-Way Services has indicated this is the final submission on this one, the Williams one.
Other questions or comments? Scott, you have a question or no? No. All right. So you'll be voting on authorizing additional payments for relocation benefits for Ocean and Arlene Williams. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. We're on to item D, adoption of a resolution authorizing agreement with the Vista Motel for emergency shelter services. Ms. Archer.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members, before you this evening is adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with the Vista Motel for emergency shelter services. You'll recall that you recently adopted the city's policy pertaining to unauthorized encampments and trespassing occurring on public property. And as part of that policy, the city is partnering with the Kitsap County Heart Program and the Kitsap County Community Resources Center for emergency housing and long-term housing placement for individuals who are occupants of the unauthorized encampments. Those organizations have limited space availability to serve the unhoused in the city. And as a result of both the new policy you've adopted and recent changes in the law, the city is obligated to offer shelter services of some sort prior to utilizing its enforcement tools to clear unauthorized encampments that pose a concern for public health and safety. This agreement authorizes the city to utilize bed space at the Vista Motel to provide emergency shelter services for individuals subject to enforcement actions. The agreement that's attached to the resolution at issue speaks to a guaranteed bed space for the city at a rate of $100 per night. And the agreement deals with issues such as cleaning and damage done to the property and provides a cap for the city so that the costs associated with cleaning and damages do not exceed an unreasonable sum. The agreement also speaks to that the individuals who are admitted or who are welcomed into the hotel pursuant to the motel voucher agreement are treated by the hotel as any other guest would be treated, and they are subject to the rules and regulations of the motel, and the motel may evict them for behavior that is violative of those existing policies. And so the resolution speaks to a staff recommendation for approval of this agreement, which the mayor has negotiated in order for us to utilize the new policy the modified policy that we recently adopted and offer this shelter space prior to any sort of enforcement action related to camping in a park or on public property or utilizing an RV that's parked in public space for a longer than permitted time period. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Clausen.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with the Vista Motel for temporary emergency shelter for low-income, unhoused residents of Port Archer.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Clausen, a second by Councilmember Lucarelli. And this is just really giving us another tool in our toolbox for these short-term stays. Councilmember Clausen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think this is an outstanding effort on your part, and I really want to congratulate you and thank you for this effort. In reading through the agreement, it's clear that it seems like every aspect that would possibly come into play has been dealt with. I very much appreciate the fact of both sides understanding the rules as well as the level of cooperation between the city and the Vista Motel on any kind of damages, as the attorney had pointed out, and things of that nature. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you. I think this is a great agreement.
Councilmember Chang.
I also commend the mayor for finding a location within city limits. I think that's very commendable. I do have one question about clarity after reading the agreement. I understand that each stay is up to 3 nights. How is the recipient of this stay defined? Does the recipient get a 3-day stay per a period of time, like per year or per? How has that been defined? I couldn't see that.
It's
There's-
really case by case here, and it's up to 3 days. I mean, if we're able to get them a bed somewhere else, they're not going to stay 3 days. You know, it'd be a day or two, you hope, but, you know, shelter beds are tough to come by. So,
Yeah, and there's no cap on the number of times in one calendar year that an individual could utilize the voucher. Some agencies have those caps, but we do not. As we look at this as a last resort. The HART coordinator has been very successful in locating folks when they're willing to be located in conjunction with the code enforcement. And so this is a voucher that's offered as an absolute last resort when nothing else has worked.
Councilmember Rose Pepe.
I'll echo the same thing co-council members have said. Thank you very much for getting this done. Do we have the ability in your discussions with the Vista to expand this if it's successful or needed?
We could. It's, you know, it costs money, and you guys approve the budget, so that's my answer to you.
I understand that, but, you know, part of what I believe we've said as a council is that we will help people who want help. And I know that we've run into situations where people have declined help, and that's their choice. But I can also see that we may run into a situation at some point in time where we could have more than 2 people. And so I just would like to keep that option open if we could until we get other tools in our toolbox, which you have been supporting. So thank you.
Yes. So I hope it's not necessary, but if it is necessary, I won't hesitate to ask.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cacciardi?
Question on the contract, just, should there be an additional insured provision? Should we ask for any sort of additional insurance from the Vistas?
So that the city would be listed as an additional insured on their policy?
Something were to happen that there's additional coverage through their policy?
Yeah, I don't know if, so this is modeled off of existing contracts at some other cities, and I haven't seen that as an option. And thinking that through, I'm not sure if that would be well received. We could absolutely try to do a contract amendment to see if we could get that added.
There wouldn't be any cost to them.
There shouldn't be. It just depends upon the nature of the coverage that they have. So we can absolutely look into that if you would like before you take action.
Indemnification language, but
I'm just thankful
I'll defer to our attorney.
they've capped our liability in this, which
Yeah.
Protection for us, yes.
I'm fine with the agreement as it is. It's a business that carries insurance to operate a motel, which is essentially what they're going to be doing for our clients, so.
Just to point out, Scott has his hand raised.
Councilmember Diener, you have a question?
Yeah, many well, a couple of my questions have already been answered, but I also wanted to congratulate you, Mayor, for doing a great job of lining up the partner for this. One small question I have is there a pets policy? We know that a lot of homeless people have pets. Will the hotel take people and pets?
They will not.
Unless they're service animals.
Yeah, other than a service animal, yes. There's a list of rules that related to drug use and visitors and cooking that are absolutes with the hotel.
Letter I under the contract, Scott.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, you'll be voting on adoption of a resolution authorizing agreement with the Vista Motel for emergency shelter services. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Resolution passes. We're to item E, approval of a road closure for a special event, the Cruise by the Bay. Ms. Wallace.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council. Staff received a special event application for the Cruise by the Bay, which is a car show scheduled for Sunday, August 13th, 2023. In that application, it states that it is called the Cruise by the Bay, and it is a car show, again, Sunday, August 13th, 2023. Setup is to start Sunday, August 13th, 2023 at 6 a.m. and then open to the public at 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. with teardown to be completed by 6 p.m. that day. It is to be located downtown Port Orchard, Bay Street, State Route 166 from Kitsap Street to Orchard Street, and then on the waterfront and gazebo parking lots, which we call lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7. Closures that they are requesting is Bay Street, State Route 166 from Kitsap Street to Harrison Street, Port Street, Frederick Avenue, Orchard Street, Harrison Street, Sydney Avenue, Robert Geiger Street, and parking lots between Sydney Parkway in front of Kitsap Bank, the Port of Bremerton Marina office, and the gazebo area parking lot, which is behind Peninsula Feed. The required notice pursuant to Port Orchard Municipal Code Chapter 5.96.50, 5.96.050, subsection 3, allows citizens to provide written comments regarding how the special event will impact their property, business, or quality of life. Has been published, and as of to date, the city has received no written concerns regarding this event taking place. Staff and outside agencies have reviewed this application and are working towards ensuring safety measures and traffic controls are in place. The applicant is requesting closure of Bay Street, State Route 166, and several side streets. They are working with WashDOT for their approval. In the meantime, pursuant to Port Orchard Municipal Code, Chapter 5.94.050, subsection 4, staff shall bring this application forward on a special event for the council to approve when the event requires a street or a highway closure. Staff is in support of the highway and road closure as presented and is continuing to work on the final details of this event with the applicant, ensuring that the highway and street closures are to the safety and traffic standards outlined in the city, state, and federal codes. With that, staff recommends the approval of the road closures as presented.
Councilmember Lucarelli.
I move to approve the road closures for the Cruise on the Bay event scheduled for Sunday, August 13th, 2023, as presented.
Second it.
Motion by Councilmember Lucarelli and a second by Councilmember Clausen. Any questions or comments, Ms. Wallace?
It's just nice to see events coming back. And I also want to commend Sean with the LTAC group for their work in getting these things going and supporting them. So it's great to see. And thank you, Brandy, for your work on these.
It is great to see him back. Other comments or questions? Hearing none, you'll be voting on the approval of a road closure for a special event, the Cruise by the Bay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the approval was passed unanimously. We're to item F, approval of road closure for a special event, Cruisin' Sunday. Ms. Wallace?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. City staff received another special event application for the Cruisin' Sunday, which is a car, truck, and bike show scheduled for Sunday, August 27th, 2023. The application states that it is its 26th annual Cruisin' Sunday car, truck, and bike show. Again, to be held Sunday, August 27th, 2023. Setup starts the night before and is open to the public August 27th at 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. Location is the Christian Life Center, which is 1780 Southeast Lincoln Avenue. Closures to be requested are Mitchell Road Southeast from Bethel to Lincoln Avenue intersection, and then the Lincoln Avenue Southeast from Mitchell Road Southeast to the northeast corner of the church property. The required notice pursuant to Port Orchard Municipal Code 5.96.050 subsection 3 allows citizens to provide written comments in regarding how allowing the special event will impact their property, business, or quality of life. As of to date, it has been published, and as of to date, there are no written concerns that I have received regarding this event taking place. Staff and outside agencies have reviewed the application and are working towards ensuring safety measures and traffic control are in place. The applicant is requesting closure of several side streets, and pursuant to Port Orchard Municipal Code 5.94.050 subsection 4, staff shall bring this application forward to the City Council for them to approve when a event requires a street closure. Staff is in support of this road closure and as presented, and is continuing to work on the final details of this event, with the applicant ensuring that the street closures are to the safety and traffic control standards outlined in the city, state, and federal codes. With that, staff recommends the approval of the road closure as presented.
Councilmember Trenary.
I move to approve the road closure for Cruisin' Sunday's Car, Truck, and Bike Show, event scheduled for Sunday, August 27th, 2023, as presented.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Trenary, a second by Councilmember Rosa Pepe. Are there any questions for this, about this event? I think we're all happy to see this event here back too. All right, with no questions, you'd be voting on the approval of a road closure for the special event, Cruisin' Sunday. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the event has been approved. We're to item G, approval of the March 14th City Council meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Member Rose Pepe.
Mayor, move to approve minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rose Pepe, a second by Councilmember Cacciardi. I believe I'll have an extension by Councilmember Clausen. All in favor of are there any amendments to or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And one abstention, Councilmember Clausen. We're to the approval of our March 21st City Council work study meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Councilmember Clausen.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes from the March 21st work study session for.
Second. Oops.
A motion by Councilmember Clausen and a very prompt second by Councilmember Lucarelli.
Sorry.
And I believe I'll have an abstention by Councilmember Cacciardi. Any corrections or comments on those minutes? Hearing none, you'll be voting on the approval of the March 21st City Council work study minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And one abstention. Nobody opposed. We're to our last business item, approval of the March 28th City Council meeting minutes. For Clausen.
Mr. Mayor, I approve, sorry, Cindy. I make the motion to approve the city council meeting minutes for March 28th.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Clausen, a second by Councilmember Lucarelli. I believe I'll have an abstention by Councilmember Diener. Any corrections or questions on these minutes?
I'd just like to say that what a great job that Mayor Pro Tem Trenary did and kept the mayor's report very brief.
Well, I'm sorry to hear you missed out on a mayor's report.
Did my best.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes, please, of March 28th, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And one abstention, Councilmember Diener. All right, we don't have any discussion items. We have the council committee reports, economic development. Looks like you meet April 17th. Have you reported on your last meeting? Economic
We
development?
canceled the last meeting.
Okay, so there's no report then this evening. Utilities, I see next meeting is June 13th. Did you have a meeting?
We
actually
reported on
Okay, you reported on it at the last meeting in lieu of a mayor's report. Finance didn't meet last month. They are planning to meet, I assume, next week. Transportation is on April 25th, I see. Chimes and Lights is April 17th. Land use is May 10th. Was there a meeting for land use or a report from this last month?
There was, Mr. Mayor, we met on the 29th of March. We talked about 4 items, well, 3, and 4th was the next meeting day. The first item we talked about was the first walkthrough, if you will, of the housing action plan that's going to be adopted to the
Questions for Mr. Councilmember Diener? All right, thank you for your report. Lodging tax, doesn't, to be determined when your next meeting is. Sewer advisory, you guys met, did you give a report on your meeting? Okay. And the council retreat is this Friday at 9 o'clock. Hope everybody has that on their calendar. Hope you're better by then, Councilmember Diener. And it'll be a long day, that's right. Let's see here, mayor's report.
Outside agency.
Outside agencies, anybody, you have one?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, KETA.
Yeah, I attended the, my first KETA board meeting, and I think probably the most significant thing to come out of that board meeting was the approval of a 5-year strategic plan, I think commonly known now as One Kitsap. And really what that's about is recognizing the fact and the successes that KETA has had as the organization has existed, as we kind of known them the last probably decade, but understanding that there's much more they can do. And so really the strategic plan, I think, is geared towards helping them to raise additional investment dollars, primarily from the private sector. As if you look at the way, KETA's been funded in the past, I think it's been a little heavy weighted towards, the municipal partners. And so, with the help of an outside agency to try to do that is to raise additional investment dollars and really to help kind of plan for the type of growth that I think our county is looking for versus standing back and just allowing it to happen. So it was unanimous in the support of that strategic plan, and I thought I would share that with you tonight.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, to the mayor's report. So I have a handful of personal policy changes to report to you. We've updated the job description for the stormwater program manager and the public works director. I've got a list of policy changes that are more really putting into our personnel policies our practices. So we have a practice that when for related to probation, so if you've got an existing employee and they get a promotion, they get an additional probation period, and that's been our practice, but our personnel policy didn't describe it that way, so we've added that to our personnel policies. Temporary employees, and we're putting in our policies, it is our practice that they're only here for 6 months, and so we're putting that into the policy. There's some verbiage related to reclassifications at the request of the Teamsters Union. There is also, in response to the last council meeting, the pay rate adjustments and being clear in the policy that the city council has the authority to adjust pay ranges, not the administrative branch. Also employee pay rates and just documenting our practice as it relates to pay scales. There was our policies just weren't descriptive enough. And then also to put in the policies a resolution 70-16 that relates to back pay and callback for our IT personnel. So just a number of things that our HR manager wants to make sure they're in the personnel policy and they're just very clear. And then just a few, 50 years ago, in April of 1973, we had our first spring cleanup, that infamous event. That's when it started. And the residents were allowed to take refuse to the city landfill, which I think was out at the industrial park, probably back then. And the city, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, the city waived the dump fees. So you had to bring it, and we didn't go pick it up. But, and then also at that city council meeting, the city approved the application for the Jeep Play Day. And it was out on the Roland property at the end of Sherman. And that's that 20 acres that we recently bought to put a park and a storm pond on. So it was envisioned that 500 participants and 4,000 visitors were expected for Jeep Play Day. So I don't know that you'd get to do that along Blackjack Creek today in those wetlands, but 75 years ago, the city council authorized the improvements to the tennis courts next to the Active Club, and now we're talking about resurfacing those same courts 75 years later. So the proposed improvements included repairs to the courts, blacktop, adequate coin meters. So obviously we charged for the use of those tennis courts, nets, and other necessary equipment. And 100 years ago, in 1923, the city clerk was directed by the city council to write the State Department of Transportation to confirm that they planned to do the annual oiling of Bay Street during the summer. And we wonder why we have contamination in the ground downtown. So,
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, the coin mechanism at the tennis courts was to turn the lights on.
to turn the lights on.
Oh,
Oh,
You
cow.
you could take advantage of the tennis court with no fee unless you wanted the lights on.
Wow.
Order.
It was a quarter to turn the lights on. That's great to know. Thank you for sharing that. I thought maybe it was to use the courts. And so that concludes my very brief mayor's report. And report of the department heads. Mr. Lang, what do you got from Public Works?
Yeah, to segue off your spring cleanup topic, the cleanup is this week, so if you haven't had garbage service yet, you still have time to get your items out. Just to fill you in on some public works contracts that are happening here in the near future, and last week, thermoplastic bids were due today, so that'll be coming to you next council meeting for approval. Catch basin cleaning is due this Friday, so that'll probably be the first council meeting in May. Paving contract, the citywide paving contract is due next Wednesday, so that'll probably be early May coming to you for approval. And the city hall renovations went out last Friday, and they'll be due May 9th. And I have to commend Charlie on her efforts to get that out the door because we had a deadline, so she worked diligently to meet our deadline for Builders Exchange, and we appreciate that. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Tony? Mr. Bond? Archer?
Very briefly, just a legislative update. Mr. Bond and I were just speaking about it, but it looks like a number of the bills we were tracking did not make it past the cutoff this week, but in gross second, substitute House Bill 1110 is still alive. Actually, I believe it was passed.
It passed.
It passed.
It's waiting for
So-
signature by the governor. That's the
Yeah.
missing middle bill.
The missing middle bill. So that will require Mr. Bond's department to do an extensive rewrite of your development code since it's now a requirement based on.
Yeah, and really, we are, because we're contiguous to Bremerton, it appears though, at least I've been told by the Association of Washington Cities, that our ADU policies belonging, so we're only required 2 units,
Right.
not 4, like other jurisdictions, and that our ADU policies actually cover us in the 2 units per
Oh,
per
okay.
lot.
That's great.
So it's not as
It's not as bad as.
bad as it could be, and it is for, as bad as it is for some other
Right,
jurisdictions.
right. And we're not saying bad in a pejorative way about the law. We're saying it about the amount of work that you'll have to do.
Yeah, well, and
Yeah,
just
onerous.
the broad brush policy from the legislature.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
a policy, but.
yeah. Thank you.
Ms. Wallace?
Just let the council know that you may have guessed that we are in the thick of special event season applications. So next couple meetings, you'll have some street closures for your consideration. So I will bring those to you as I get them processed. And that's all I have.
Right, and let's go to our second citizen comment period.
Patiently waited.
So I'm Tony Ives. I'm with Kitsap Community Resources, and I should have been here a long time ago. So I'm happy to be here, and it's serendipitous because of the contract, which I didn't know that was going to be discussed today, and the council members' comments about the Housing Action Committee. So I just want to introduce myself briefly. So I've been at KCR for about 18 months now. You know, there was a lot of volatility there, but you guys know what we do. You know, we serve. We serve the community just like everybody in this room. We, you know, our WIC programs, our weatherization programs, our Head Start and early childhood learning, and especially our housing and community service programs. We do a lot of things. Meals on Wheels, it's amazing what we do. Even through COVID, we stayed alive to serve. So just a little bit about myself. I mean, I'm from Port Orchard. I graduated in South. The gentleman that was here, Norm Olson, he graduated with me. You know, I was like, hey, what's up? So, you know, my family lives here. and out in the Key Peninsula, and I'm so happy to be back here, serving. So we have a lot of work to do. I'm a pension Wall Street guy by trade, but I quit everything and joined the Peace Corps, and I never really looked back. And so coming back here just to do this and to serve the community, I believe in it, and I know everybody else here does too. And that's not a joke. So I just want to segue to this thing that we're talking about right now, and that's housing. And so recently, we started a project maybe about 9 months ago or so, and it was just an idea. My friend Joe Crane with St. Vincent de Paul, my friend Jill Stanton with the Bremerton Housing Authority, myself, we were just talking. And we brought some folks together, including Doug Washburn and Kirsten and Joe Morrison and some other folks, just to talk about the idea of housing and how we should be collaborating and not competing against each other for funding. And so one thing led to another, and it took off. So there was 3 of us, now there was over 100. Representative Kilmer is part of the project. He was just with us last Wednesday, along with some of the city council members from Bremerton. We basically were inaugurating a project over at Mills Crossing over in Bremerton. There's a lot of work to do, but I just want to cut to the chase because it's going to cut off, right? So the idea is to gather resources and to leverage funding. Okay, so maybe the city of Port Orchard has X. City of Bremerton has 500,000. Kitsap County has 5 million. Department of Commerce knows what we're doing. Jill and I went over to Seattle about a month ago and met with a very large private donor about a housing equity fund. I'm not going to drop the name, but the idea of it is if
Randy,
we can come together as a
turn that
team.
off.
Thanks. If we can come together as a team, we're not just talking about 5 million. Maybe we're talking about 200 million over the next 5 years. So this is what we created. Joe is handling the data committee. He's working with the county. Kirsten Jewell, unfortunately, she just left to Commerce, right? Jill is developing the pipeline of projects. So basically what we're trying to do around the county, you know what we're talking about, around the county is to find the pipeline of projects, whether they're senior projects, whether they're youth exiting out of foster care, whether they're affordable housing or mixed-use housing, and put them on a spreadsheet or a database. And then my job is to advocate for them and find the sources of funding and then leverage that together. So again, this thing has taken on a life of its own. We all have jobs to do. We all have real jobs, right? But we're excited about this because even Mills Crossing, this thing started December 15th, and here we are. We raised $14 million in 2 months, and I find that hard to believe. We know that there's money coming in, and what we're trying to do is advocate money to come into Kitsap County because it doesn't come here. And so that's our pitch. When we did go over to Seattle, all that money goes to King County, Pierce County, and what Jill and I pitched was, Kitsap County. And she said, Kitsap County, where's that? Like, hop on the ferry. Well, she's from DC, okay? So I cut her some slack. My point is, it's not just that corporation, it's others. Even here in Washington State, the Housing Trust Fund money rarely comes here. So we're just trying to push it here, collaborate together, and if we come together as a team, doing it together with one voice, then it works. And right now, people are starting to listen to us and call us, and it's amazing. So honestly, it's late. I'm surprised I'm here. But even the thing at the Vista, that is so cool because this is our team. And I went to Vista last summer talking about this, and it was a hard sell. So I appreciate this. We know what needs to be done, and we know that there's better ways of doing it, including taking care of facilities, right? Making sure that we educate and train people and make sure that we take care of the things, right? Not just give it away. So that's what I believe, and it's all about service and doing it all together. I really look forward to working with you. I apologize for not coming here sooner. I'm gonna leave my cards. Reach out. Some of you guys know me, but thanks. I live here, by the way, so I'm up the street all the time at the county, but I should be here too, all right? So thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody have any
Councilmember
questions?
Diener has a question. Councilmember Diener.
Councilor Diener, go ahead.
Just go to the order when you're ready.
Yep, I've got one too. So, thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
So my good of the order is that there's no work study meeting next week.
Am I done? Okay,
So
cool.
we'll see you on the 25th.
See-
But,
Thank you.
Councilmember Diener, do you have a good of the order?
There is.
Yes, there's a candidates forum here Thursday night at 6 o'clock that the City of Port Arthur Clerk's Office hosts every couple years. And we have a great panelists lined up for some great questions. We have the Kitsap County Elections Office here to talk about what they have to provide for future candidates. So, yeah. Thank
Thanks
you.
for bringing that up, Scott.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, I think I'm attending that. I'm not sure. I'm attending that in person. I'm not sure if anybody else is.
Yes. The Land Use Committee is attending.
Yes. But not a committee meeting.
All right. Councilmember Chang, you have a good of the order?
I just have a quick good of the order. The Kitsap Great Give ends tonight at midnight. In case you were waiting to make a contribution to your favorite charity, it does end at midnight tonight.
Thank you for that. All right. With that, any other good of the orders? With that, the meeting is adjourned.